Hello and welcome back to Queensport. We're going to continue working on restoring the city that was lost during the Economy 2.0 update. I'm just right now the camera is overlooking the area we just were working on last time. I did a couple of alterations to the vineyard area. I just added a little more plants to the side here, changed the ground color a little bit. Nothing too drastic, just give it a little more detail. I still think that this view here is probably the best one in the city so far. I just love the contrast between the beautiful estate on the hillside and the ugly advertising billboard advertising on the left, or on the right, sorry. I just love that sort of contrast for stuff. So what are we going to work on today? Well, we're going to start thinking about restoring the downtown, which unfortunately is still in a bit of a mess. Not much here yet. The save I had to work from was at a point where I was just at the kind of like laying out the basic idea of the downtown, and not much else was done. I have worked on a few more like some of the suburbs around the area a little bit more at that point, but yeah, the downtown's completely missing. Now, I went ahead and did a little off-camera work here, trying to come up with a road layout. And I know it's kind of like you're probably looking, going like, what is he thinking here? This makes no sense. This was a bit of a problem in the first build, and it's still a bit of a problem in this build. What the problem is I have a bit of an elevation change here. It's fairly drastic. If you were to look at the natural landscape where this tree line here is, that's kind of where the hill is, and what we're doing is kind of we're going from like what would probably been like the lowland area up to a little higher elevation, and yeah, it's causing me all sorts of issues. Well, not issues, but just trying to figure out how to navigate this transition. We essentially have two competing areas of downtown. We have the area around the train station, and we also have the areas right up along the coast, the shoreline, and what was in the past the port area of the city. And I have to kind of figure out a way how to join all these three areas together into something that makes some sense. So my thinking is, what we're going to have like a historic old town built up around the rail station, which historically would make a lot of sense. And that would have been just this area above the rise up here. And perhaps these neighborhoods over here and this neighborhood over here. And then we would have had what historically might have been a more industrial area towards the shoreline. And because of this interesting break in the landscape here, there's not easy connections between the two. Obviously, I could go in here and terraform this into whatever I want to make it however I want. I'm not opposed to doing that where I think it's necessary, but I try to work with the landscape somewhat. I mean, landscapes do dictate how cities develop, and to totally ignore that, yeah, it's not really the best solution. So I'm trying to figure out a way to work with it. So I think what we're going to work on today is probably just a little area in here. And we're going to reconstruct the historic old downtown area. And maybe get into a bit of this area in here, which would probably also be an older area of town. Once we get on the other side of what's currently referred to as Lilac Street, which will probably get renamed at some point, we are going to get into the city proper, and this is where all the new shiny developments are going to be, with all the high rises and the really huge density is going to be down in this area eventually. So this is what I'm going to work on right now, and I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do. Now, historically, I do wish I had a different rail station. This one's fine. I don't really have any issue with this, but if we think in terms of the age of the city in this region, we're going to assume railroads were built in the 1880s up to, the early 20th century. This would have had a historic rail station, which this is not, unfortunately, that. But it's what we have, so we're going to use it for the time being. Perhaps in the near future, we might have better options for this. But right now, this is what we're going to use. Literally, the main street of the town at that time would have been Washington Street. Also probably will be renamed at some point. It's not going to... Washington Street, unfortunately, is not going to... It's not going to fit with the overall story of the city, and I will get into that a little bit. I might talk about it a little bit while we're building up this area. So since this would have been the historic main street of the city, and whatever buildings were built in here would have been basically the economy at the time, because of the rail station here, this would have been kind of like ground zero for anything really, the real big buildings. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of options for that. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into find it, and I'm going to look up the signature buildings, and I'm going to hand place one, the Kane residence here. This is a nice sized building. Now I just have to decide whether or not I want it on the corner or not. I think I'm going to put it in just a couple squares from the corner, and we're going to plop it here. And this kind of is representative of what might have been built up around the rail station. I have been finding an issue with hand placing signature buildings. The problem with signature buildings is they infer all these bonuses onto the town. So the more of them you put down, the more bonuses you get, and it distorts the economy to a certain degree. I'm just going to live with it. The distortion is very evident here in New Sunderland. Everything up here is because of the high density of signature buildings. Everything is leveling up into level 5. I think I've mentioned this before. I'm going to have to come in here and do a bit of editing. I don't necessarily, as nice as this all looks, and it looks very, very nice, it's not exactly what I want. Although I think I am going to keep this configuration of buildings here. This is actually very nice looking, and we're going to lock these down so they don't go anywhere in the future. But some of it has to go. I can't have it all level 5. That's just a little unrealistic, and I want some of these areas to be a bit more run down. So we'll come back to that in the future. But over here, for the time being, It would be nice to have the option to turn these buildings off, but don't. Anyway, that's going to be our main building right now. Now, since this is the oldest part of town, this is going to be the area that's going to have built up the most, and it's going to have the oldest buildings. But, you know, like I said, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of options for old buildings right now. One thing I decided to do in this rebuild is turn this into a pedestrian street right along the hill here. I am going to try something here. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm probably going to mess it up. When it comes to certain types of manipulation of the game, I'm not very good. So we'll see what I can come up with. I just noticed that this has a whole back area just off the road. And we're just going to, what I'm going to do is I am just going to start working. I'm just going to start filling in this area and see what we get. I guess while I'm doing this, I'm just going to maybe chat a bit about what my overall plans are for this. So, sorry, it's gonna get. I think it's gonna take me a bit of time to actually get used to the idea of working and talking at the same time. It's not something I have a lot of practice at. So bear with me as I kind of work through it. Okay, so what I'm looking in here is just a few row homes. I want them obviously they're going to be one wide, and I want them 3 deep, and I want them to be, since this is like a well-established area, I want something a little nicer looking. I think these ones would be fine. And we've got some clipping with the tree there, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. Now, one thing I've noticed over here is we have some parking issues. We have this rather dense housing development here, which doesn't have much surface level parking for the residents. I installed some here, and I put this larger parking lot over here closer to the rail station, but you can see we still got a fair amount of street parking happening as well. So I'm going to put in a bit of a development here. So I'm just going to quietly work on this, and as I work, I am going to talk about what I'm building all here. This is something I've been noticing. This is an issue. I don't know what's happening here. My recycling center, let's get rid of that for a second, is not doing what it's supposed to. Right now I have only one vehicle out of 15 working, and meanwhile garbage is piling up all around and nothing is being, I don't know if it's a bug. I tried deleting it and replacing it, didn't fix anything. So I am unsure what is going on right there. I do have, an incineration plant over here, which is fully operational. Everything is like lots and lots of garbage trucks out collecting garbage, but this recycling center, it's not happening. So I don't know what's going on there. Hopefully it will fix itself eventually. Okay, so for the rest of the area, we're just going to fill it in. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my idea for where Queensport is exactly in the world, and my thoughts on, or just my ideas about, what is this place I'm building? Like, what is its history? Where is it? All that sort of stuff. And I have a few ideas here. Hopefully somebody finds them interesting. If not, that's okay too. But, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm building, and I'm just going to talk about it. So, what am I building here? In this city called Queensport. Well, I thought about this a bit. Like, Pacific Northwest. Okay, what does that mean exactly? Because Pacific Northwest is both Canada and the United States. And I'm not really, like, when I think about this a bit, I'm like, I don't really want to necessarily build cities specific to either region, to be honest. That could be fun if I wanted to be very specific about it, but yeah, it's not something I really like I want to personally do. So what I decided, and for this area, is I decided that I'm not going to build it in Canada or the United States. I am going to create a whole brand new area or country, and it is going to be the country of Cascadia. And that sounds like a lot of work. And I suppose in a sense it will be a lot of work. Sorry, I'm just trying to find, I don't want these left and rights. I just want the middle ones, but there isn't a lot of variety here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, oh wait, okay, we can do this one. This looks good. Okay, there we go. So yeah, I am creating my own fictional country called Cascadia. And when I'm thinking about that, I'm like, okay, well that's fine. I mean, we could certainly dream up an entire region if we wanted to. And that might even be a lot of fun, but like, there's a lot to consider with that. There's like the history, the backstory, and that can be a bit daunting. Why is that not? Oh, it's a rail. That's why it's not a line. Okay. Road markings. That's what I'm looking for. And single line. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so I'm gonna create a fictional country called Cascadia. Now, the immediate question is, how does that work with the existing world? Because the existing world, there is no such place. So, well, it's going to be an alternate history where what's going to happen here is we're going to go all the way back to 1846 with the Oregon Treaty, which was signed between Britain and the United States, where the United States claims all the territory below the 49th parallel. But in our alternate history, what's going to happen is it's going to go the other way. Britain is going to get all the territory down to, I believe it's the 42nd parallel, which is the border between Oregon and California. I'll have to look that up to be absolutely sure, but I do believe that is correct. So that means, and basically the knock-on effects of that are going to be felt throughout the entire region. So our fictional country of Cascadia is going to consist of essentially Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, the Yukon Territory, and Alaska. It's also, I mean, for my purposes, it may include areas of Idaho and Alberta. It doesn't really have to. I mean, I don't have to be that specific about the exact actual land area of it. But I think it's definitely going to have those areas as its borders. This allows me, what this essentially allows is I now have creative freedom to create my own thing, like from all of it, like right from the railroads to the cities, the infrastructure, all of it can be my own creation, and I don't have to necessarily model it after the United States or Canada. Although, since what we've essentially done since from 1846 forward is we've created a new British colony, which eventually would become the nation of Cascadia. But since it's a British colony, it's probably most likely going to follow the same sort of model as any of the other Commonwealth countries. So it is, in some respects, going to be more similar to Canada than the United States. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be exactly like Canada. An easy example of this is, say, Canada and Australia. They're both Commonwealth countries. Their governmental systems are in many ways very similar, but they're also very different. Also, what's the word I'm looking for here? Their makeup is like their political attitudes are also very different from one another. So yeah, so we don't necessarily have to make this Canada, but it's probably going to be, because of its close proximity to Canada, it's probably going to be very Canadian-like in some ways, but it's not going to be a carbon copy. yeah, so that's it. Queensport is a city in the fictional nation of Cascadia. Uh, Now, where is Queensport in all of that? Well, I'm just going to keep it totally fictional. This is just a fantasy location. No real, no real connection to any place in the real world. I don't really want to try to rebuild cities on existing geography. It's just like that might be fun, but it also, it's also a bunch of limitations. So I'm not going to do that. Okay, I'm definitely having some issues with this uh, pedestrian street and joining it to the lower sections. What I'm going to do for the time being is just leave it as a hill. What would be ideal here would be stairwells, but I don't have access to stairwells, so I can't do it. So I'm not happy with this this wall here. I mean, I could do that. I don't know. Hold on. Actually, there might be an opportunity here for something. Let's just take a look at what we have. So we're just going too deep, and I don't know if this is acceptable. To be honest, it would make for a very interesting block. Essentially, all these poor people would have balconies right looking over a pedestrian walkway. I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. Oops. That was not what I wanted to do. What would really be cool would be to have a row of row houses along the street and then stairwells going up to meet up with the pedestrian walkway above. That would be very cool. I think we're going to play around with this a bit. I think for the next little while, I'm just going to shut up. I'm just going to build stuff and we'll put it on Timelapse and find some music for the background and just play around with it. I'll come back when I'm done or when I'm had enough of it, and I will talk about what I've made. Okay, just a brief pause here to kind of take a look at what I've been doing. This overall, it's looking pretty good. This transition between these two heights here is causing me a few issues. Obviously, there's way too many row homes in here. I'm gonna have to do a bit of editing to just break this up a bit more. Um, I don't mind the look of it too much. I think one thing happening here is there might be just too many trees, or just just break it up a little bit so it's not continuous. Just add a bit of variety to it. Yeah, there's too many townhomes, or row homes, I should say. One really nice yin yang's recolor mod here is great. I mean, this is gonna add a lot of variety to things. Uh, it's interesting. It'll be great for like kind of more neutral recoloring, like taking these dark gray brick buildings here and then converting them into more of a white one. That's really nice. I've tried some green ones, but I think this is going to be one of those mods where less is more. So yeah, you can go really, really crazy here and do all sorts of wacky colors, but I think ultimately it's going to be, a light touch is going to be probably the better option here. Overall, the neighborhood's looking more or less what I was wanting. I got to do. I'm going to go back into Timelapse here pretty soon and just try to finish it off. I tried to quickly add some high density offices because I am my demand meters were kind of like flatlining, although they are starting to come back now. But unfortunately, I got a whole bunch of the same thing. Those aren't going to stay. I'm gonna remove those pretty soon, and I'm not sure this is going to be like the main street of the entire city, so I don't necessarily think this sort of thing is appropriate here. I'm just trying to deal with some demand. I think what I'm going to do here though is I am going to remove some of these. It is just way too repetitive, and I think what we're going to do is I'm going to take out a few sections like so, and I am going to put in their place, and I'm just going to try this out to see what it looks like, because I'm not sure if this is actually what I want in here, but I want, yeah, okay, this will work. Just something to add a bit of variety, so we're not looking at just a long straight stretch of the same building. Now I need a North American mixed use that will work, and I think that'll be okay. Just maybe what we'll do is we will do one more. Just take out two of these, and we'll put in another one. It's rather unfortunate there is not, at these smaller sizes, there's just not a huge amount of variety. I think that, yeah, like those two are the same, even though they're different levels. This one might be a bit different. No, it's the same. Let's try this one. Okay, that's good. Nice different color option there. Okay. So yeah, just a little bit to break it up a little bit. I'm going to come back to this and revisit it. What I really want in here is some stairwells going up from one level to the next. I don't really have a good option for those. There are some attempts in the asset, like the mod store at stairwells. I don't think they're quite ready yet. I tried them before. They didn't seem to really work. Anyway, I think what I'm going to do now is just go back into time lapse and try to fill in the rest. Um, and then I'll be back afterwards. Okay, I think that's enough for this build. Obviously, this is going to take a bit of time to build it all out again. Overall, I'm fairly happy with how this all looks. Might come back in and tweak a few areas. This pedestrian walkway that I was slightly worried about before, you know, looking a little too repetitive and stuff. Now that there's a bit more density in here, it's really not that bad. It's not that noticeable at all, so I'm okay with that. I have tried to squeeze parking in wherever I could. The parking in this is actually kind of really good. It's very easy to just kind of draw it in all the little nooks and crannies wherever you can fit it, so that actually is working really well. Yeah, so this is pretty much for now. I think this is fine. As we progress closer to the water, things are going to get taller and bigger and more expensive. But for this section of town, being the oldest part, probably going to do a bit more detailing in here, fleshing it out, adding, you know, a few unique features and stuff. I haven't really decided where exactly all that's going to go yet. So, you know, it's a work in progress, right? So that is it for today. If you have stuck around to watch all of this, thank you very much. I appreciate it. If you feel inclined, please like the video. If you want to subscribe to the channel, that would be great too. Anyway, I will talk to you all later. Bye.